called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sandy, if you could please read our mission statement and take roll.
At Richmond Community Schools, we provide a quality education that empowers students to be successful in a global community. Board Member Telto, Board Member Cunningham, Board Member Oldani, here. Board Member Michon, here. Board Member Sutton, here. And I am Board Member Fortuna. I'm here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
Thank you. Mr. Walmsley.
Turn over to Mr. Thiel for the personnel report.
For resignations and retirements, we have Derek Fortuna Gill resigned as the Richmond High School assistant soccer coach. Robert Taylor resigned as the 8th grade basketball coach. John Van Gampelier resigned as the first robotics coach. It should say Richmond High School, not middle school, for his building location. Then for new hire, we have Michael Dalio for the first robotics coach. Notice of appointments, Lori Capozo, she's moving from the elementary school, or sorry, from the high school to the middle school as assistant cook. And then Ashley Kostowski is the new GSRP associate teacher at Lee.
There were no errors brought to my attention regarding the June 10th regular Board of Education.
Thank you. Any discussion from the board?
Yes,
Or
for
questions?
the first robotics coach, I don't know which one I'm asking. Were there any other people interested in that spot, staff people?
Not for the high school.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion to go into closed session.
Pursuant to Section 8D of the Michigan Open Meetings Act and upon the request of students, parents, and or guardian, I move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the purpose of conducting a hearing to consider the discipline/reinstatement of a student whose identity is known as student 022624.
Do I have support?
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We will be going to room 201, and for our public, we will be back after our closed session. Okay, next item on our agenda is our Blue Devil raves. Kelly, anything?
No, I don't think so.
Danielle?
I just want to say that these first 2 weeks, or week and a half-ish of summer school have been amazing, and the people working and doing everything have been doing an amazing job with the teacher cadets and everybody who's returning and getting everything. It seems like a very, from outward appearance to the parents, it seems like a very well-oiled machine. So I think it's going really well.
Good. Margaret?
I'm going to do my thing here at Raves because I think it fits better in the Raves.
Okay.
On our student board rep.
Yep, that works.
Danielle, Sandy, and I, along with Brian, we interviewed 5 students for our student board rep, and the board knows that. But I just want to start with the rave first. 5 really great, impressive kids. So it's a real good sign of what we got going on at Richmond High School, and maybe even what the world is going to be as they grow. Very interesting things that they're involved in that they talk about. It was really cool. So we decided on 2 students, and they are Joe Casito, who is going to be a senior next year, and Elizabeth Schaefer, who is going to be a junior. They're both very excited, and they did a tremendous job, and the two of them, it was, as Sandy said, as we were sitting before, it was very interesting when we finished and when we sat to talk. The three of us board members were, right, we all agreed on this is what we needed to do, we needed to, and these were the kids. So we're pretty excited about it. They will be here in August 12th meeting. That will be their first meeting. Next month, in the month of July, going to do a little orientation with them, show them what the agenda looks like, where they are at in the agenda, so that they're ready to come. So we're just very excited, and I don't know if you two or Brian want to say anything, but.
No, I just want to add though that they won't really have a full report on August 12th, you know, until, they won't really do that until the second meeting in August. But initially my concern about having two of them was one being at one meeting and then the next at the other, but it's not going to work that way. They are going to both try to make it to all of the meetings, so that way, and they both have some really fun, I think, or really awesome ideas to bring, I think, to the board table that are really new. So I'm excited for that. I really am. I'm really excited for it.
And they were both super impressive. That was like, we had them in order, and I could only hope with them that all of our kids turn out the exact same way. They were phenomenal, and I feel like they will work really well with each other, and they cover a lot of different aspects of the clubs and sports and organizations of the district, and all the way down to Schaefer is part of the teacher cadet program, so she's involved in the elementary even. So very, very excited about those two. Big things.
Good.
Hopefully.
And we kind of told them, how do we do with it what you want? You know, the minimum that you need to do is this. And they have some really cool ideas on how they're going to reach out to students for student feedback and that. So I think it's going to be really cool. Yep.
Thank you. Sandy
Nope, that's it.
and Candace.
I'm actually all set.
And I don't have anything, so.
You asked Kelly?
Did Kelly get that? I did.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I
She
didn't-
said no.
Okay. I missed it.
Me too. Okay, next item on our agenda is our superintendent and legislative update.
I want to echo what Danielle said. Today starts the second week of their summer program. There are 258 students registered who are either attending the morning and afternoon or just the morning session. I happened to get over there last week. You wouldn't know it's summer school with these kids. They're excited, they're happy, they're engaged. So kudos to the staff. Jessica Schlehuber is the summer school coordinator who's overseeing it, and Mrs. Manguni is stepping in now that Mrs. Staples is no longer with us. The program's not in session next week, as for the July 4th, but it will be back on July 8th and finishing July 11th. So if you get a chance, go to the elementary, buzz the door, and go through the office, and take a minute to visit the program board members, morning and afternoon. It's pretty remarkable.
Brian, I would really like to check out the program, I think, but should I email then Jessica or somebody before her? Like kind of schedule that?
Yeah, if you want to shoot it, I did already let her know that I know board members will probably want to get up there and
I'm
talk
very
to them.
interested.
So
I'll check it out.
just buzz in. She knows that board members may stop in.
Okay.
She was very excited. She will take you around, and she will show you all the highlights. And it's funny because even some of the challenging kids that we have during the school year were engaged and focused and just excited. So it's a good, great program. For next year, I would like to welcome Michaela Wadowski. She's going to be doing her student teaching in Mr. Stevenson's kindergarten classroom in the fall. And then we have Emily Whitehead, who will begin her student teaching at the high school in Ms. Shannon's art class beginning January of 25. Recently, we've met with Oakland Community Schools or Oakland University, excuse me, and we are creating more of a partnership and getting more of a streamline to have student teachers in our district. We've had successes with those that have had it. Mr. Langmeister at the high school level is our most recent student teacher that's moved in. He's got some of the top growth scores in reading at the high school level. So We're excited to have our student teachers as well as some pre-student teacher opportunities. The results are in. The fall, the spring student, parent, and staff survey results are have been. You'll see a fall and spring comparison. It is published on our website. Any staff member or community member is more than welcome to visit it. If you just go onto the website under the results are in, you can click on it and you can see the actual fall to spring results. You'll see on the results, the parent results, there was less respondents in spring. We went from 202 in the fall to 87. Statistically, there's nothing that dramatically changes in a negative light for the district. There's some positives, so when you look at the comparisons from fall to spring, you'll see pretty consistent aspects. So again, you can see not only parents, when you look at staff, in the fall we had 84 responses, in the spring we had 75, excuse me, which is a pretty good turnout for the number of our staff that we have that are full-time. Student responses, we had 791 in the fall and 707 in the spring. The one note I do want to make on the student responses, this was given after the seniors' last day, so the spring results does not have, you'll see at the very bottom here, there's no 12th graders. So just we've talked previously about the final bond proposal. We are at $145,016 left.
I'm sorry, what was it?
$145,016 left. That has $76,000 already taken out that we have been holding for projects to be finished. So our final to look at allocating is about $145,016. If you recall, in the spring, we had some issues with the gymnasium at the middle school. The brickwork came down, so we had to close the gym right at the end of the year. We have been working with the architect, and basically, in a nutshell, what has happened was we pulled the blueprints from 1970, whenever that building was built, and realized that it was not built according to the blueprints. There is a structural beam that goes between the two support beams, and it calls for 4-inch block. And what they did was they backfilled that beam with just regular brick that you would put on the side, like fascia brick that you see, smaller brick, and then cut and just kind of did like a tile over top of it. So over time, as the heat and cold expands on that metal plate that's supporting it, you can see the crack that's formed over time in the top of the middle school. So right now we are in the process of getting costs and estimates to completely remove on both sides, which would be the north and south side wall of the gym. Basically about 4 layers of block at the top. Put it back to specifications that were called for, which calls for strapping that's tied into that metal beam to hold that block, which isn't there.
Well, Brian, when was that done?
It's the original when the building was built in 1972.
So it could have been like code back then, just not now?
No, the brick that's up there is not what's on the specs of the drawing, what was called for.
So who's
Giving us an
who
out.
would have checked that? That should have been
It
our
would have been,
architect or our engineer.
Well, if the same process exists as is now, you have your construction manager, you have your architect, you have a bunch of people that come out there. I can't,
Joseph,
I was
remember
very
that
little.
at that time, that was when the district didn't
You weren't required to have it.
put enough money in the bond. That building sat empty for
I know.
4 years. So I mean,
And legally, you weren't required. So why I'm holding this, we have filed an insurance claim. I do not know if this is covered by insurance. Because they keep asking me, is this a maintenance issue? Or so we are working with the insurance company. So you may be getting an email that I'm going to have to make an emergency purchase in order to get this done. We are looking at using the same, some of the same contractors we do for our buildings here from the last bond that we've worked well with and have done really good work for us. I just got to get it done before school starts, and times,
So that amount may disappear.
depending on what insurance covers, so I will keep you
Okay.
updated on that one, so.
That's too bad it's been so long, and you go back to the original company, you know?
Really?
But now what do you do?
Yeah.
You do what you're doing, I guess.
It could be, I mean, you know, something the insurance company could pay for it, and they could go after it. I don't know, statute of limitations is probably
Yeah.
gone, but. Last thing I will say is, I sent out an email to the staff and the board, and you guys already know about this, but legislation has been introduced, Senate Bill 911 and House Bill 8307, which focused on reducing the MIPSR's retirement rate from 20.96 down to 13.96, which would be a 7% reduction. So for Richmond, that's about, it's like $689,000 that the state is currently sending us, that we turn around and send back. So what we're asking for is permanently reduce the rate. They continue to send it to us, and we don't turn around and send it back. The other thing in these two bills is the reduction of the 3% that employees were required to pay for health care to maintain health care when they retire. Back 2012-ish timeframe, there was legislation that was put in place forcing employees. There was a legal action. Bottom line is, if you want the existing health care for retired, you were forced to pay 3% because the fund was underfunded. It is currently at basically 150% funded. It is fully funded. So what we are asking from the education community is relieve the employees that were burdened to pay this because it was an unfunded mandate by the state, as well as this 7% reduction, and keep that money in the public schools. That money comes out of the school aid. It's for public schools, and what it should be for public schools. There is a rally in Lansing tomorrow. The Michigan Association of School Boards, the Michigan Association of School Administrators, the MEA, anybody tied to the education is asked to go to Lansing tomorrow, meet in the Capitol between 9 and 10. There's house sessions at 10 o'clock. The bills were amended to only keep the 3% reduction and not the permanent reduction, those two bills I referenced, in order to keep them through the budget process. We are in the 11th hour of the budget, and we are being told that they will fix it when they come back. We've heard that promise many times before, and I'm very leery about that. There was the, I want to make sure I say this right, because I don't want to, there's questions from legislators that have questioned, is it truly overfunded? All budget offices, House, Senate, Governor, all agree there is too much, we have overfunded that fund. And we no longer need to be putting that money into it. Find the statement here, I must not have wrote it down. All the the House leadership brought up for debate, was supposed to vote on this last Thursday. They unexpectedly adjourned without taking any action. Later in the day on Thursday, the bill was amended, removing the 7% and just keeping the 3%. That 7%, which is $700 million statewide, is being eyed, looked at, wanted to redirect for what's called SOAR. It's S-O-A-R. It's basically economic development, that they want to commit that money for 10 years to do economic development rather than keeping it in the school aid fund into schools. They want to redirect those dollars. So that is why the school community, for years we've taken the hit on this because the legislators didn't do their job. It's fixed. It should stay in the school funding. So if you can go to Lansing tomorrow, I'd encourage you to go to Lansing. Wear red for public ed, as they're asking you to wear a red shirt, something to go to Lansing tomorrow. And with that, that's it.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item on our agenda is our items of interest from the board. Candace?
I
Sandy? Thank you. Danielle?
I'm good.
I guess we're all good. Okay, next item on our agenda is public comments. Since the last board meeting, the board has not received any emails. At the last board meeting, a member of the public wanted to know if the board interviewed a board candidate that turned in their documents late. Yes, we did, and I take full responsibility for that decision. I felt having 2 candidates to interview would give the board options, so I accepted the late candidate. I have worked in education for 30 plus years, and I can tell you there are sometimes deadlines are changed for various reasons. But it was my decision, I'm taking ownership of that decision, and I still feel at the time it was the right one. At this time, any member of the public may address the board. Please sign in and state your name. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Are there any public comments? Okay, being no public comments, we are going to move on to our action items. Mr. Walmsley has a comment to make.
There are several action items that fall below the board threshold. And the reason why they're on here for action is because over the course of the year, and this is something that the auditors have been talking to us about to be more cognizant about, that there is a potential that we buy something $2,000 here, $5,000 3 months from now, $6,000 4 months from now. But when you look at the total for that vendor, it's going to be over $10,000. For instance, there are multiple vendors for Delta. When you total those collectively, they're over $10,000. So these are all the items that from when Ms. Staples has been here, and now we're working with Eric in the IT department and Jamie to identify. These are all the annual stuff that we're going to be approving every year in order to keep the operation from our websites to firewalls, etc. So again, there are some action items that fall below it. It's because I want to make sure we're covered so that if we purchase things later on, we are under that 10,000 threshold for the future.
Okay, are we ready? Here we go. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of the fiscal 2024 general fund final budget and fiscal 2025 general fund original budget.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the fiscal year 2024 general fund final budget and fiscal year 2025 general fund original budget as presented in the attached documentation.
Do I have support?
Support.
I'm going to go with Sandy. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of the fiscal 2024 debt fund final budget and fiscal 2025 debt fund original budget.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the FY 2024 debt fund final budget and the FY 2025 debt fund original budget as presented in the attached documentation.
Do I have support? Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of the fiscal 2024 food service fund final budget and fiscal 2025 food service fund original budget.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the fiscal year 2024 food service fund final budget and fiscal year 2025 food service fund original budget as presented in the attached documentation.
Do I have support?
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Looking for a motion for the approval of the fiscal 2024 Student School Activity Fund final budget and fiscal 2025 Student School Activity Fund original budget.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the FY 2024 Student School Activity Fund final budget and the FY 2025 Student School Activity Fund original budget as presented in the attached documentation.
Do I have support? Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Looking for a motion for the approval of augmentative writing and debate course curriculum and instructional materials.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the argumentative writing and debate curriculum and instructional materials for the middle school course as presented on June 10, 2024, and outlined in the attached documentation.
Second. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of American Wars course curriculum and instructional materials.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the American Wars curriculum and instructional materials for the high school course as presented on June 10th, 2024, and outlined in the attached documentation.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion?
No, other than I'll just say it again like I did last time, I would love to be in this class.
No discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of the contract with AIS for heavy operating equipment course.
Move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and authorize the superintendent to enter into an agreement with AIS for the 2024-2025 school year to offer the course heavy operating equipment for which funding from the 2024-2025 general fund is authorized.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of a contract with the City of Richmond for television and broadcast media 1 and 2 courses.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and authorize the superintendent to enter into a contract for shared services with City of Richmond for the 2024-25 school year to offer the course television and broadcast media 1 and 2, for which funding from the 2024-25 general fund is authorized.
Do I have support? Support. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Danielle. Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of a contract with Richmond Lennox Ambulatory Services for emergency medical tech EMT course.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and authorize the superintendent to enter into a contract for shared services with Richmond Lennox Ambulatory Services for 2024-25 school year to offer the course Emergency Medical Technician EMT for which funding from the 2024-25 general fund is authorized.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of the Michigan High School Athletic Association, MHSAA 2024-25 membership resolution.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the Michigan High School Athletic Association, MHSAA membership resolution for the 2024-2025 school year as presented in the attached documentation.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of a contract with Logosoft for Adobe K-12.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the contract.
Should be contract with, cross out the
Yeah,
first four words.
Contract with Logosoft for Adobe K-12 for an amount not to exceed $2,350 for the 2024-2025 school year as presented in the attached documentation.
Do I have support?
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of a contract with Apogee for Thrill Share Media subscription.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the contract with, Apogee for Thrill Share Media subscription for an amount not to exceed $11,838.75 for the 2024-25 school year as presented in the attached documentation.
Support.
Any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Margaret? I'm sorry, Sandy's first. Sandy?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
I vote aye, motion's carried. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of a contract with CDWG for Microsoft 365 A5 subscription.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the contract with CDW-G for Microsoft 365 A5 subscription for an amount not to exceed $29,715 for the 2024-2025 school year as presented in the attached documentation.
Do I? Thank you. Any discussion? Candace? This is a roll call vote. Margaret?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Candace should have been second.
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Sandy?
Aye.
I vote aye, motion carries. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of a contract with Delta Network Services for Forti Client and Forti EMS renewal.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the contract with Delta Network Services for Forti Client and Forti EMS renewal for an amount not to exceed $13,754.33 for the 2024-2025 school year as presented in the attached documentation.
Do I have support?
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, this is a roll call vote. Margaret?
Aye.
Sandy?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
I vote aye, motion carries. Looking for a motion for the approval of a contract with Delta Network Services.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
Go for it.
Sorry. I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the contract with Delta Network Services for Fortinet firewall support and renewal for the amount not to exceed $18,205.78 for the 2024-25 school year as presented in the attached documentation.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Sandy?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
I vote aye, motion carries. Looking for a motion for the approval of contract with Delta Network Services for Extreme Network Software Subscription and Support Renewal.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the contract with approval of contract with Delta Network Services for Extreme Network Software Subscription and Support Renewal for an amount not to exceed $4,750.44 for the 2024-25 school year as presented in the attached documentation.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Looking for a motion for the approval of a contract with Delta Network Services for Something Vision Software Subscription Agreement.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the contract with Delta Network Services for Exact Vision Software Subscription Agreement for an amount not to exceed $5,152 for the 2024-2025 school year as presented in the attached documentation.
Do I have support?
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Looking for a motion for the approval of a contract with Delta Network Services for ShoreTel VoIP telephone system renewal and support.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the contract with Delta Network Services for ShoreTel VoIP telephone system renewal and support for an amount not to exceed $4,260 for the 2024-25 school year as presented in the attached documentation.
Support. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of a contract with Gaggle for student safety management.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the contract with Gaggle for student safety management for an amount not to exceed $14,400 for the 2024-2025 school year as presented in the attached documentation.
Do I have support?
Support.
I'm sorry, Danielle?
Yeah.
Thank you. Any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Margaret?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
Sandy?
Aye.
I vote aye, motion carries. Looking for a motion for the approval of a contract with Intercom TSG for VM backup for Microsoft Office 365.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the contract with Inacom TSG for VM backup for Microsoft Office 365 for an amount not to exceed $5,400 for the 2024-2025 school year as presented in the attached documentation.
Do I have support?
Support.
I'm sorry, Sandy, was that you?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of a contract with Advanced Climate Control LLC for a preventative maintenance and service support agreement.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the 3-year contract with Advanced Climate Control LLC for building automation agreement for a total of $37,665 and preventative maintenance agreement, service agreement for a total of $137,321 for the funding from 2024-25, 25-26, and 26-27. General fund is authorized and outlined in the attached documentation.
I'm sorry.
That was me. Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, this is a roll call vote. Candace?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Sandy?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
I vote aye, motion carries. Looking for a motion for the approval of a contract with Practice BC for on-demand tutoring.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the contract with Practice CB for on-demand tutoring for an amount not to exceed $15,900 for the 2024-25 school year as presented in the attached documentation.
I'll support, but it's practice, it's BC, because it's called practice benefit form.
Oh,
So just, I
Oh,
support it,
okay.
but
It
it's
just
rather
should
than
be
Swiss,
BC
it should
instead
be
of
BC.
CB.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay. Any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Sandy?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
I vote aye, motion carries. Looking for a motion for the approval of a contract with Renaissance for accelerated reader.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve a 1-year contract with Accelerated Reader by Renaissance for a total of $9,739.27, for which funding from the 2024-2025 31A grant at risk is authorized and outlined in the attached documentation.
Do I have support?
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Looking for a motion for the approval of a contract with Amplify Science for previously board-approved K-8 science instructional resources.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the reoccurring curriculum purchase of Amplify Science for a total of $10,770.62, for which funding from the 2024-2025 reoccurring curriculum budget is authorized and outlined in the attached documentation.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? Say roll call vote. Margaret?
Aye.
Sandy?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
I vote aye, motion carries. Looking for a motion for the approval of a contract with Studies Weekly for previously board-approved K-5 social studies instructional resources.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the reoccurring curriculum purchase of Studies Weekly for a total of $8,548.99, for which funding from the 2024-25 reoccurring curriculum budget is authorized and outlined in the attached documentation.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Looking for a motion for the approval of a contract with Positive U LLC for PBIS programming for grades 4 through 8.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the reoccurring curriculum purchase of Positive U for a total of $13,575, for which from the 2024-25 general fund i.e. non-grant 31AA and Title IIA, is authorized and outlined in the attached documentation.
Support.
Any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Candace?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Sandy?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
I vote aye, motion carries. Looking for a motion for the approval of a contract with Envision Mathematics for previously board-approved K-5 mathematics instructional resources.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the contract with Envisions Mathematics for previously board-approved K through 5 mathematics instructional resources for a total not to exceed $39,681.90, for which funding from the 2024-25 general fund is authorized and outlined in this attached documentation.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? It's a roll call vote. Sandy?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
I vote aye, motion carries. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of a contract, Progress Learning LLC for K-8 Progress Learning Instructional Resources Platform.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the contract with Progress Learning LLC for K-8 Progress Learning Instructional Resources Platform for a total of $17,456 from the 2024-2025 general fund, i.e. non-grant 31AA and Title IIA, is authorized and outlined in the attached documentation.
Do I have support?
Support.
Thank you. This is, any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Margaret?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Sandy?
Aye.
I vote aye, motion carries. Looking for a motion for the approval of the board resolution for student 022624 disciplinary reinstatement hearing.
And move that following a closed session student discipline / reinstatement hearing, the board votes to reinstate student 022624 consistent with the attached resolution.
Do I have support?
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Yay. Okay, take a breather a minute. Our next item on our agenda is our Board of Education interview candidates. Brian, I have to set three nice questions with yours, but here's, yeah, that one's your copy.
Do you have the second version that was sent?
Pardon me?
The second version?
Yeah, I don't think you've seen this. This is like the third version.
Oh, the third version.
Here,
Yeah.
that's mine.
Got
Maybe
mail.
One of those is for.
You need two of them.
I need two of them.
Oh, right. I revised it on Sunday night with some of Brian's suggestions.
That was all.
Was that the second one? Okay, so it was the one, Brian had suggestions. I just tweaked it in some of
You
ours.
did tweak it.
I did.
Okay.
Okay.
So use,
Can I get another one?
everybody should have two. Did everybody get two?
Yeah.
Cynthia, did you need a copy?
I do.
Okay. Okay, so we have two candidates tonight for our board opening. Our process will be, we will first conduct the interviews. The persons, they are chosen in order by who had their information in first and who had their information in second. The board will then deliberate after we've interviewed both candidates in open session. After we've deliberated, I will ask for a motion from a board member to appoint one of the candidates to the board. The entire process takes place in open session, and you are welcome to sit in the audience for the discussion portion. So, let me get organized here. You are our first candidate. So are we gonna, Brian, are we having them sit there? Tracy, would you mind stepping out? I believe there's some comfy chairs out in the lobby. Thank you. I forgot to put that it was all,
Yeah, I know.
shoot, it was in your packets.
I have,
That's okay.
Brian's got them.
Okay. I think that was
I don't need it, but Jill might.
shall I make a copy for him?
I don't, does anybody need a copy of them? I was just saying, you could pull them up too on your,
I can do it faster on my phone.
Nope, I read it.
Oh, okay. All right.
so welcome. We're going to start off with introductions. I don't know if you know everybody at the table, so Danielle, we'll start over at your end.
Danielle said.
Sandra Fortuna.
Brian Walmsley.
Dan Michelle.
Kelly O'Donnell.
We have a list of questions. We're just going to kind of rotate around and ask. We will give you some opportunity at the time if you have any questions for us. Okay? Okay, number one. It says, can you share specific experiences and aspects of your background that have prepared you for the role of our school board, and how these experiences will inform your approach to addressing the challenges and opportunities for our district?
Sure. So my background, my formal education, I went to Central and have a degree in Parks and Recreation. So my professional career has been service-oriented, and I was the Parks and Recreation Director for the City of Ferndale for several years, and in that role, I feel like there's a lot of parallels with the school district as well. So you're working for the community, and you're working with other department heads, you're working with the city council, you're working with different groups, different people that may have different opinions, but for the common good, to reach certain goals. And much like how the calendar runs with the school district, certain things happen at certain times. Same thing in municipal government. There's city council meetings that happen at certain times. There's deadlines for a reason. So just I have experience working with lots of different people, and I think that those skills would help me in this position.
Thank you. Okay, guys, check your initials.
What specific methods and initiatives will you want the board to actively engage with parents, teachers, and the community to ensure their voices are heard and their concerns and priorities are addressed in the decision-making process?
I think, Mr. Walmsley presented on that tonight. There's surveys that go out. I think, in addition, to board meetings, you offer opportunities for parents to speak out. You have the Just Ask on the website for parents to also provide feedback. I think at each school specifically, and obviously the administration seems open to hearing that feedback from parents.
All right. Given the current trends and issues within education, what specific challenges do you think our district will face, like in the next 5 years? It's a hard question, sorry.
It is. I think it's always, isn't funding there, and it's always can come up, and that can be a challenge, not just here, but everywhere.
Funding is always a challenge.
Yeah, period.
That is absolutely correct. Sorry. What innovative strategies should the board implement to ensure academic excellence, equity, and student well-being, in your opinion?
Is in relation to
In relation to, the question is in relation to what the school district's doing. What kind of innovative things do you think we should be doing to ensure academic excellence, all of that? Or, are things we are doing working for you as a parent? That's kind of what I think the question is.
I think in this role, it's staying up, and I know there's training available, but if there's conferences available. I know in my work experience, there was a conference that we attended annually, and in those conferences, you could go to learn and see what the trends are, and bring that information back and make recommendations, and as a board, decide, would this work for our district?
Can you explain can you explain the distinct roles and responsibilities of the school board member compared to those roles of the superintendent? How effective collaboration between the two, the board and the superintendent, enhances, I guess, the success of the school district?
I think most importantly, it's remembering that everyone's here for the same reason, for the kids and doing what's right for the kids. The school board, they are responsible for setting policy and just approved a laundry list of things that help operate our school on a day-to-day basis. And the superintendent's role is to oversee the day-to-day operations of the district, oversee administration and taking care of that area.
How do you plan to balance your time to ensure active participation in school district events and activities outside of board meetings? And why do you believe this involvement is important for a board member?
I think it is important, and my whole existence, and like I said, my professional career, I am a service-driven person. I'm motivated by working together for the common good, and I find that work rewarding when you're working hard and setting goals and then working together to achieve them. I find that work very rewarding, and I am very involved in everything that my kids do, from volunteering in their class to helping out at field day. So I don't think I would have a problem. I think that just goes along with myself as a personality.
Can I just follow up?
Sure.
Aside from your kids, how do you think the role of a board member to be active in things other than the board team? I get absolutely what you're saying, that in your involvement, that's already what you do and all of that, but what else do you see?
Yourself doing?
Yes,
that?
yes. thank
What
you.
else do you see yourself doing?
I know that you guys have a presence I've seen the board members walking in parades. I've seen you at tables at different events, attending the state of the district, reading for March's Reading Month. Participating in some of those activities, being you're together collectively, you're a face of the district, so you want to be out there in the community promoting that.
Yeah, and I always believe that the community needs to see that too, that we are involved in lots of different things and we're there, we know what's happening, we're supporting, so.
What specific initiatives and policies would you advocate for as a board member to ensure teachers and staff have access to the necessary resources and professional development opportunities? And how would you measure the effectiveness of these support systems adopted by the board? Did you give me all the hardest ones?
I'm sorry. We can mix them up.
Honestly, I'm not an expert in teacher development, so I would look to the staff for that recommendation. recommendation, and like, any type of training and professional development would come from Mr. Walmsley or the administrators, and taking that into consideration as a group and deciding if that's how we can support the teachers.
That is a very key answer, the fact that we are the educators. They are, that's a very key answer.
All right, what is your, or I could start off by saying, I did see on your resume and looking over it, having the kids in the district at the different levels and being in the district for quite a while. So what would your long-term vision for the school district that you would like to see, and how do you plan to help achieve that?
I think just, I was born and raised here, so I've seen a lot of change. I attended Richmond and graduated in 2000, so things are a lot different, and even just in my schooling, things changed. But what I'm loving is all the different options that are offered to the kids. For example, my oldest, I have 3 children, and they all have very different interests, and my oldest is not a sports person, and she has found 4 different activities that she's absolutely excited about, trying something new. And as a parent, that's what you want. You want your kids to find something that they love to do, and that it truly makes us incredibly happy. She's excited, headed into high school, ready to just take on the world. So I think continuing, and just even like reading some things that you approve, like the AIS, the heavy equipment. It's just great to see how things have evolved, and how they, since the last several years.
One of the hardest parts sitting at the board table is when decisions are made, and we might not personally agree with that, but the board makes it, that's what's going to happen. How would you manage situations where the board makes a decision you did not personally support, and what strategies would you use to maintain a united front and effectively communicate the board's decisions to the community?
I think it's a team effort, and everyone understanding that everyone could potentially have a different opinion, and working together to find that common ground, and understanding if your vote doesn't go the way that maybe you wanted it to, ask. Maybe you have questions. Maybe you do research to find out, okay, did I miss something, and trying to learn more about maybe why it passed and why, did you have this information? I think just trying to understand where everyone's coming from and working together. I think I'm a fair person. I think I'm good at listening and researching and trying to look at all sorts of different information to make that decision. I think, definitely working together, and if that's what the board decides, you're not going to get anywhere by, oh, we'll vote a no and this and that. It's a yes, and presenting that to the public, because that's not a good look for anybody if you're what's the right word? Talking badly about the decision that maybe you didn't agree with. It was passed as a board, and it's presented as a board text.
One thing I will tell you, you would never be not totally informed sitting at this table. I'm just saying, Mr. Walmsley is very, very good.
Maybe that came out wrong.
No, I'm just,
sorry.
no, I'm just, but going more towards this question for me a little bit, I can sit here at the table and think they're all nuts, for voting for something and I vote against it. And because first it's my personal belief of something and I make, that's more what I'm saying. So, and I liked your answer where you said what the board decides, that's what it does. But sometimes it gets a little bit different when it's your personal feeling. I'm saying that, you know what I mean? So how would you, because there are times when
You feel
every one of us
strongly
walk out
about
of here
something.
thinking, how did that just happen? And oh my God. So how do you see yourself? Because something will come
Right.
that is going to personally affront you or whatever. So how do you see yourself handling that?
I mean, by the nature of the job, you have to accept that and present that as a yes. And everyone sitting at this table wants what's best for kids. So if the item passed, maybe one part of it maybe you didn't quite agree with, trust that everyone at this table is voting because they want what's best for kids. And that's the most important thing. And the answers, I think, should, that when you're voting for that reason, I think it'll fall into place, and that makes it easy, right? When we're doing what's best for kids.
I'm sorry, okay. Can you provide an example of strategies that you would use to foster collaboration and effectively resolve conflicts among board members and the superintendent, as well as board members in the community? If you understood that. These are all kind of like pretty bougily written. Yeah.
First, speaking to conflict resolution, if you're brand new and there's a conflict, I would reach out. I don't know that I would take something initially into my own hands. You have a president for a reason, so reaching out to the president, sharing some concerns and asking for advice. There's a lot of people at this table that have obviously a lot more experience than I do, so using those resources to, okay, what's the next step? Where do we go from here? What can I do to help?
Can I just ask, the second part of that one is
Okay.
oftentimes the board's decisions may conflict with what the community wants.
Yeah.
How would you address that aspect, if I'm not overstepping my boundaries here? It's okay.
Again, I think it goes back to you're a team up here, and if you're going off saying, well, the board, I don't agree, if the board agrees, then the board agrees, and sometimes that may happen, but I think you're not going to get anywhere if you're not keeping that united front.
And it's difficult when things happen here at the table in the community, things, and if you have a group of people that have supported you or something like that, that kind of thing is very hard to have to say, this is what the board, and your answer of, you're doing what's in the best interest of the students. And if you keep that mindset, then those people out in the community just have to accept that.
Sometimes they don't want to hear the truth. They want to hear what they want to hear.
Okay, Candace.
Okay. Are you prepared to run for the upcoming election in November? And if you are running, what will be your key campaign messages to gain the community's support for your candidacy?
Yes, I am prepared to run, and a lot of the things that I said already, I will run on the fact that my kids are in the district. I went here, we quite literally live and work in town. Consider us lifers, and I want what's best for kids, and I want to give back, I want to serve.
How would you approach the budgeting process to ensure that financial resources are allocated effectively, prioritizing initiatives that directly support student learning, well-being, and equitable access to educational opportunities?
I think through the budget process, you're taking Mr. Walmsley's recommendation and then looking through the budget, and I'm sure there's, the board has goals, there's plans in place, and ideally you want the budget to align with the goals and the plans of the district.
That's a good answer. And it is a very detailed process. And again, as you go through it, you learn as you go along, and there are recommendations that come, but there's also conversations at the board table as well, so.
Okay, how do you intend to advocate for and promote public education within our community? And what specific policies or initiatives would you prioritize to secure the necessary resources and support for our public schools to excel?
I think the number one thing you can do to promote the district is your actions. So, like I said, we live in the district. I have 3 kids enrolled. This coming year, I'll have 1 in each school. And being involved, being a part of the district, showing that you're around and you're involved and you're creating that community.
Have you written to like our federal or state representatives, senators advocating for laws to support public education and Richmond community schools? And if so, what did you write them about?
Honestly, I have not,
Okay.
but it's not something that I would be opposed to.
All right, last one, second to last one. How would you assess the performance of the superintendent and the district as a whole? What areas do you believe that we need improvement or that we would need to further enhance?
I think one, it's kind of, so one area, I feel like that is positive is the amount of information that is put out. So we have all these different ways to gather information related to the district. And, given the state we are in, we're inundated daily with information, but I think the district does a good job of, we have our city website, the school facing page, the teachers have their own information. I think that's a highlight, but one kind of downfall of that is, personally as a parent, I know I saw that somewhere of just, there's so much information of like where to go to find certain
go back to
things,
it.
right? And then the part, for example, the state of the district. I attended the state of the district and I thought it was nicely done. And you could tell a ton of work and time was put into that. And as a parent, just why isn't every seat in this auditorium filled
Yes.
with parents? So it bummed me out for the amount of work that was put into that to see that not every seat was filled with parents when for a lot of other things there's, this community is so involved, this district, parents are so involved. And I don't know how to change that. Maybe that's brainstorming, but I do see that as an area of positive.
I think that was the first time we
We
did
did
that.
it.
That was a plan that the board talked about for a few years, doing something like that. So I think like anything else,
It's
we
gonna
do
grow,
it again,
yeah.
that people, because to me, not just parents, but community members come
Yeah.
in and see and listen to what your tax dollars
Right.
are doing.
Yeah, you have your last one.
All right.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, I
No,
forgot to put it on here.
This one's long, so bear with me. A school board member plays a crucial role in promoting the district by serving as a bridge between the schools and the community. Their advocacy helps garner community support, which is vital for securing funding, improving facilities, and enhancing educational programs. By effectively communicating the district's successes, school board members can attract new students and retain current ones, fostering a positive reputation. Additionally, their promotion efforts can lead to partnerships with local businesses and organizations, enriching students' educational experiences, and providing additional resources. Ultimately, a school board member's promotion of the district ensures a thriving educational environment that benefits our students, teachers, and the community at large. As a parent and a community member, how are you advocating for or promoting the district?
I think sharing all of the positives that my kids have experienced. They've had an amazing semester. We feel truly blessed that things went so well, that they're excited. And just really specifically, like I said, my 8th grader, the other point that I want to make for that grade is the planning that went into those 8th graders to go to high school. I mean, the one day she came home and was like, this is my plan for high school. She knew. And I think that was huge. Set those 8th graders up. She is not nervous. She's ready to jump into high school with 2 feet. So I think it's, the kids are involved in extracurricular activities, being out, sharing their experiences, being involved and sharing the positive.
We're all good? I get the last one. Actually, it's for you. Do you have any questions for us?
Sure. The first question I have is there any, so for a new board member, is there any type of training or anything available to help set that person up for
Yes.
success?
Whoever comes on the board, we do Mr. Walmsley and I will do an orientation. So we kind of go through our rules, our agenda, how things work that way. With the district also pays, there are course classes you can take through the Michigan School Board Association, which we are all registered on. And the district pays for our courses. We ask that every member take course 101, which is really the basic school board of,
Yeah, that's what it's called, School Board 101.
Is it? Okay, School Board 101. It's just really,
It's that simple.
It's
Yeah.
very
Everything
informative.
you've ever wanted
It
to
is.
know.
It's very eye-opening.
I mean, it talks about open, what's an open session, what's a closed session, what can you do with this and that. So that one we ask that everybody take. But there are a ton of other courses that they offer that as long as you submit the paperwork ahead of time, we approve and you can attend. Some are, they do things sometimes in Lansing, sometimes locally, sometimes online. I know Candace has been taking quite a few, so yes.
There's, oh, sorry.
Go on, Sandy.
There is a conference every year as well.
Yes.
And I think this year it is in Lansing, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
In
and I-
October?
And one of the things I think as a board, we are all going to try to see if we can go together, or 2 or 3 of us can go. We did that last year.
And the year before.
Or the year before, and then people came back and, we talked about what we learned and what's going on and what's new and stuff like that, so.
And that's just cool because it's like school boards from all over the state.
Right.
So you really do get a lot of those ideas that you were talking about, like during like a conference earlier in your.
But aside from just the actual classes and stuff, there's local opportunities when the monthly meetings and stuff that the different school boards or school districts host and stuff like that.
Correct.
A lot of times they have like a speaker and stuff like that is just, sometimes they're really actually phenomenal. You walk out of it like all pumped up, like, oh wow, that was so cool. Like I never thought of this different side of it. So there's, more informal stuff like that too that you can attend, and sometimes get dinner and everything like that too.
So there's a really great, that thick manual, how to be a
Yes.
board member. It is, all these years later, I still have my yellow sticky notes for stuff. It is just a really
We
good
get-
resource.
We get that through MASs.
You get that when you take 101.
That's what I thought, okay.
But it's just something that
To
you can
reference.
refer to for however long you're on the board. You know, just go back for some really good resources.
So there's a lot of
I
pieces.
can attest to Mr. Walmsley's onboarding is pretty amazing too. That booklet is, the onboarding is, it can be.
Orientation.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the orientation that we
Yeah.
put together.
Secondly, I know this opportunity doesn't come up very often for the board to select a board member, so what qualities are you, as the board, looking for in a candidate?
Well, I'm looking for, I know that I'm looking for someone that I feel like I can work with. I'm looking for someone that I feel will work, within our group and we can, if we have issues and problems, that we can talk it out and move on, because we have to stay, as you said, a team. I'm looking for someone who does like to be involved. You weren't here, I don't think you were here when I was here as principal. But I was always involved and still am involved, even though I'm no longer in a building. That's some thoughts. Anybody else?
Yeah, for me, it's a pro-public education person, because that, to me, that is everything what we're about, what we need to do, and what's going to be the best things that we can do as a board and a district for our kids. And, I agree with that. It's someone that you can feel that they're going to sit at the table, and it's going to work okay. Because the reality is we all come on board at one time or another where we don't know each other, we don't know anything, and so you're trying to figure stuff out, so that's my thought. And someone who comes prepared, is ready for meetings and that kind of stuff, because that shows out in the public if you've got people that aren't prepared,
Right.
so that's just my thing.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, just looking, I'm all of the same things. I don't want to continue to repeat all of that, but definitely on board with all of that. Someone who, I guess, the only thing I think that wasn't mentioned that maybe I'm looking for is, sometimes it's difficult, but I'm looking for somebody who I believe can put maybe sometimes their own personal beliefs aside and do what's best for the public school setting, because that's hard to do. But I think we all have to do it here at the table, to be honest with you. So other than, and then also echoing, what Ms. Delto and Susan Shaw said as well.
Okay, anything else?
Just my last question. I want to hear, what is your favorite part about being on the board?
Oh,
Congratulations.
I was going to say the same thing.
I think that's the best, that's the most feel-good moment.
Meetings that go until midnight.
You love them, right? Oh, come on, we don't have that many.
That's the culmination of everything. That's the whole point of what we're trying to get you from point A to point B, and seeing some of those kids. And sometimes for me, it's those kids that we may have seen along the way as a board in situations that are not the most stellar for them, and to see them walk across the stage and think, oh my God, they did it. That's
Actually, I love it when the groups come in here, like the robotics and stuff like that, and usually they're here because they're asking for money or because we gave them money and they're coming back to tell us, how good they did and everything. But you can tell that they're genuinely excited about what they did or are about to do and the stuff that they're learning. So that's actually, we've had We the People, we've had the robotics, and I know there's been a bunch of other ones that
DECA.
stuff like that just come back and share their experiences, and it just makes you feel like you did the right thing. You sent them to wherever they were going, and they're bringing back the fact that they got real life experience out of it, and they're a better person for it. So just that growth that you see in those short amount of times is a big deal.
I think first you go to the kindergarten graduation.
Yeah, that's the awesome.
And then you go to, I think the high school's first, but to see that growth, and I love going in and reading to the kids. It is so much fun, and they just love you and they hug you. And doing that. I love doing the parade. walking down and just seeing people that graduated, and they're so excited to see me sometimes, and I'm usually way down there, and the bus is way up there, and I gotta go, you know? There's a lot of things, but graduation, I would agree with Margaret, it's my top one.
I think graduation too, I mean, it sounds cliche, but like, you just see the fruits of your labor, you know, that you've put forth throughout the whole year, and like, especially next year, or in changing those, making those changes in the curriculum and seeing the test scores come back in a positive light, and the students are that much more successful when they walk across that stage for graduation. That's huge.
That's cool.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. If you want to sit out and wait, we are after our other candidate we interview, and then you're welcome to come back in. We're going to sit and talk after that about who we're going to choose. Okay, you're welcome. What?
I'm shaking.
You're cold?
Yes.
Well, see, now, it was really cold when we were in the other room, but I felt like I warmed up out here.
I brought a sweater and I'm not even cold this time, so you gotta come prepared.
Yes. Well, we didn't do it the other time, and I don't know, I know, but I know last time they left, so I just want to kind of keep consistency here. Yeah. Hi, Tracy.
Good evening, everyone.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Good, good.
How are you all doing?
Good. Good. Obviously, we have a list of questions.
Sure.
We're going to work our way through them, and we will leave a time at the end, so if you have any questions for any of us.
Great.
Okay?
Sure.
Okay, so here we go. Can you
Are we gonna
share?
introduce ourselves?
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot the introductions. Danielle, please start.
Danielle Sutton.
Thank you,
Sandra
Sandy.
Fortuna.
Brian Walmsley.
Kelly O'Donnell.
I apologize and thank you, Sandy. Okay. Can you share specific experiences and aspects of your background that have prepared you for the role on our school board, and how those experiences will inform your approach to addressing the challenges and opportunities in our district?
So first of all, thank you for having me here this evening. It's good to be here back in this space where I've been a number of times. My experiences have everything to do with public education. My current role as the enrollment coordinator at Romeo Community Schools. I am about to head into enrolling madness. And in a season of enrollment, I enroll between 575 and 600 new students into that school district. So I know public schools from that perspective. I also sit here and have 30 years of teaching experience in both public and private school, where I was a music educator, and I taught everyone from 4 years old all the way through to seniors in high school in general music, and then also in the choral music setting. 3 years of which was here in Richmond as middle school and high school vocal music teacher. And along about, I think it was about 2008 or 2009, the current Board of Education and the current superintendent, they were struggling, like often, about finances and with finances. And there was a letter that went out to the community that implied that potentially one of the choices would be to close the high school to make ends meet. And I remember reading that letter thinking, what is going on? What is going on? And it piqued my interest from a community perspective because this is my hometown. This is where generations of my family have graduated from. And so I started attending board meetings and started learning about what was going on. And in 2010, I put my name on the ballot and won, and it happened to be a one-year seat where I was filling the term for someone who had left. And then in 2011, I ran again, and so I spent a total of 8 years sitting where you all are sitting. I was a part of the board in hiring Mr. Walmsley to be superintendent. I was a part of the board when bond passed and the excitement of that, and also the complications of that, and how it didn't go so well when that first construction management company was here with us. And to be on that side of the table and know what it's about, to know the changes that you have to make both personally, because you can't walk through the Kroger store in the same way anymore. I mean, you just can't. You can't be on Facebook in the same way anymore, all those kinds of things. I know what that's about, and I know what it means to make the decisions that you have to make. I know what it means to be in creative and productive conversation with one another, to be able to come up with a decision that feels as much as consensus as you can possibly make. So that's a little bit about my history and who I am and the skills and all that I bring to sit at the table with
What specific methods and initiatives will you want the board to actively engage in with parents, teachers, and the community to ensure their voices are heard and their concerns and priorities are addressed in the decision-making process?
One of the things that is new since I was off the board in 2018, I have been paying attention to are the surveys that go out. That feels like it's a really great thing, and the feedback that you get. I hope that I assume that that's being looked over. Weak spots are being focused on the most. So I would be an advocate to continue that process. I also, would say that this is a time all over, not just here in Richmond, but all over, where people have lost trust in the institution, many institutions, but I think they've lost trust in the institution of public education. And so anything that we can do to help build trust back is important. But that does mean that we have to be clear about what are the reasons that trust has broken down or got a little rusty, so to speak. And is it based on fact that trust has been broken, or is it not based on fact? And as board members, we have to be keepers of the facts, right? We have to be that. So I think that's part of repair that can happen in all kinds of different ways. But that's certainly one thing that I would see as a board member. It's certainly important for us to do and to continue to do. From staff perspective, we have to remember as a board that they exist. It's kind of easy to be distanced. So it's not our role to necessarily dive in to staff and to what staff's doing on a regular basis. But we have to trust that we're hearing what's happening from Mr. Walmsley, from the administrators who come, and we ask really great questions of them when they're here. Right? So that process, continuing that, and keeping that dialogue open, very important.
All right.
Given the current trends and issues in education, which I'm sure you're very aware of, what specific challenges do you think our school district might face in the next 4 or 5 years?
Well, unfortunately, funding of education is as the politics goes. It feels a little bit like soap opera sometimes, right? But I think that as we look toward a change in political leadership at any point in time in Lansing and or Washington, we have to be able to switch gears on some level because we don't know. But we do know what the rhetoric is ahead of time, but we don't really know what that's going to feel like, right? So I think we have to be aware of that. I think Richmond is growing. And I think we constantly then have to be evaluating. We have these amazing facilities, right? Our infrastructure it has just gotten better and better. But is it enough? Is it enough for projections moving forward? So do we see that be a problem into our future? Because that takes a whole lot of planning and figuring out if we see that as a future.
What innovative strategy should the board implement to ensure academic excellence, equity, and student well-being?
So academic excellence, what it is?
Equity, get my glasses here. Equity and student well-being.
I would say certainly the student well-being part, it sounds as though, from what I am hearing, there's a great influx, certainly since the time that I was sitting at the board table, of more social workers, more counselors that are invested in student well-being. That, I think, can only grow because we have students and we have young people who need assistance to keep their mental and emotional well-being in a healthy state. So I think that prioritizing that, thinking of good and wonderful ways to support any kind of new program that supports that kind of work is imperative. Innovative things that we can do, I would have to say in lots of ways, we have ideas of our own, but we also have an educational professional that sits with us at the table. And so Mr. Walmsley is going to bring innovation to this table for us to have dialogue about. And I remember clearly at one of the very first workshops when I was on the board, that was with Michigan Association of School Boards, right? And the person looked at all of us and said, you have to understand that the superintendent, and people are going to laugh that I'm about to use a sports thing, because I'm not a sports person, so anybody that knows me is going to be shocked. But that the superintendent is in fact the quarterback. Right? So, Brian, you are Goff. You're Mahomes, right? And so
She knows names.
She's got two, not bad. Very impressive.
So I think that there has to be the understanding that yes, we can come up with ideas, but we share them with Brian, and that Brian and his team are filled with lots of those innovative ideas as well. And so to make sure that we're having the appropriate balance of that feels really important.
Can you explain the distinct roles and responsibilities of a school board member compared to those of the superintendent? Which you kind of already did, I guess, but I guess if you can be maybe a little more on that. And then how effective collaboration between the two positions can enhance the success of the school district?
Sure. So the board is governance, right? And so the reason that a Board of Education exists is linked to something that happened a long, long time ago where a whole bunch of people threw a whole bunch of tea into a harbor. That's the reason a board exists. It's tax dollars. And so whenever in this country there are tax dollars involved, representation has to be present, right? And so that's what it's about. Community representation for those tax dollars. That's the governance. What you just did this evening is one of your major jobs. And you've probably been working on it for a long time, right? So governance, finance is a piece of that. Then out of that comes policy. So you must also be making sure that the policy that the school has is reflective of school code and school law, and then also reflects what the community wants as policy for its school district. And then the piece that you have is to hire and assess the one employee that is the board's employee, and that's the superintendent. Right? So if the relationship between the superintendent and the board is unhealthy, it is a stumbling block to productive work from a school district's perspective. And so we may often, as we sit at this table, feel, like I said, detached from the rest of the school district. But what happens here at every meeting really does affect what happens on a daily basis. And so that relationship of working together, understanding where one another's coming from, feels a bit like a dance, right? And none of us wants to stumble as we're doing that because it's bad for the district.
Thank you.
How do you plan to balance your time to ensure active participation in school district events and activities outside of board meetings? And why do you believe this involvement is important for a board member?
So time is something I think about regularly. And, you know, I might have had my name on a ballot shortly after I left before because I enjoyed the work a lot, right? But time was the reason that I haven't engaged again until now. So I'm not going to commit to something that I don't have the time to fully do. And so I understand the obligations that are here at this table, the obligations of preparing and getting ready to be here at this table for a board meeting. I understand how important it is to be at things, at events, and all those kinds of things for lots of reasons. But it is one of the ways that we can get a sense of culture. We can get, I mean, not necessarily culture, but we can get a sense of maybe the mood, right? The mood of the district. We also can, as we have to diligently prepare to evaluate Mr. Walmsley. It's one of those times when we can do that work, right? Evaluate and observe.
I'd like to do a follow-up. So what has changed?
What's changed?
Yeah, what has changed that now you are
Right.
comfortable or feeling you can come back and
I'm
know
not
that
going to
that's a part of
I'm
it?
not going to school anymore.
Ah,
Right?
okay.
So
That does make a difference.
Right? I received my master's degree in
Oh,
2021, and so I'm not going to school any longer. I do have a full-time job, and then I also have a quarter-time job with the church that I'm a co-pastor of. So it's not that I'm not busy, it's just that I don't have that, you know, paper writing, reading,
Right.
yada, yada, getting another degree floating around as well.
Okay, do you have any night duties at Romeo?
No, I mean, I have a
Okay.
couple of nights coming up in August.
Got it, but
that are
nothing doing,
Drop-in enrollment kind of
Right.
things, but, yeah, no.
okay, thank you.
What specific initiatives and policies would you advocate for as a board member to ensure teachers and staff have access to the necessary resources and professional development opportunities? And how would you measure the effectiveness of these support systems adopted by the board?
Well, I hope that a part of that budget, I didn't hear it when I was here, but I hope that the curriculum director is included in that budget, because you just lost an amazing one.
It
So
is,
it is, okay, that's good news. So I think making sure, again, that we're listening to that educational professional, asking all the questions that we possibly can when they're here. I am sure, potentially, that they would meet with us on an individual basis if we wanted to ask questions about what was happening specifically from a curriculum basis. Innovative, I guess I'm going to go back to this place of sometimes it's hard for me, I'm finding it difficult to answer these questions in the sense that I don't know that it's my role necessarily to come up with the innovative ideas, or is it my role as a board member to ask the questions of the new things that come our way, and to then say, woohoo, that's amazing, and make sure the community knows how amazing they are. I mean, you can also say, I don't think that works, right? You can go the other way too, right? I don't think that's going to work for us here, and these are the reasons why I think that, right, too. It can go that way as well, right? It's not always a Yahoo.
That's right.
All right, what is your long-term vision for Richmond, and how would you plan to achieve it?
So here's the thing, I was at the State of the District event in March. And I have to say, I had moments of sitting with such a huge smile on my face that it hurts. Now this is a part of who I am, I'm telling you. But there are moments that I was brought to tears at the thought that so much change and advancement has happened in this district. From what I knew and struggled with when I was on the board before. So moving things forward, here's what I know is true. I think the pandemic taught us that strategic planning into a future cannot go very far at all. We have to be nimble as an organization to be able to shift and change quickly, right? Which this district did, and did well, right? So I think that's part of what we have to learn more about how to be, right? Is to be present with what we need right now, look out a few years out, and not know that we can't really plan for 5 to 8 years from now, because things are changing so very quickly. I also love the fact that this is a small school district, right? I also have to say that there are some downsides to being small, because we might very well be teaching children and young people that everybody that they see on a regular basis is all that's out there in the world. And the mission statement talks about a global community. And so if there's something that I think Richmond Schools needs to really look at, is look at how am I helping students see what a global community really looks like, really talks like, really dresses like, really loves like, really eats like. Because there's so much other out in the world, other in a really good way, right? And so how we can't change the demographic of Richmond, right? We can't do that. But how can we, as educators, as people who believe in young people and want to prepare them for whatever's next, where we know they're going to meet the whole globe, right? How can we make sure that in Richmond's future, that's a key piece to what we're offering children and youth?
As you know, having been on the board, sometimes a decision gets made and you don't personally support it. So how would you manage situations where that happens? And what strategies would you use to maintain a united front and effectively communicate the board's decisions to the community?
Yeah, so it happens, right? We're different people all coming together, so it's going to happen. But I hope that we we would potentially not all be sitting here if we didn't respect the work that we're doing together. And so if we respect the work that we're doing together, then the vote, the decision, has to be respected as well. So I had many moments where, the decision didn't go the way that I thought it really ought to go. But you walk away and say, I am still a member of this board, and I respect the work. So that means that I walk away, and in a private manner, maybe I go to the board member that I disagreed with about something, and I might say, hey, tell me a little bit more about where you're coming from with that. And I might do that, right? But that's where it stays. It doesn't go anyplace else, right? I'm not going to go broadcast that conversation. I'm not going to go broadcast. How could they have decided that, right? It's just, first of all, it's just not, I don't feel it's professional, and it lacks respect for the work that happens.
Can you provide examples of strategies you would use to foster collaboration and effectively resolve conflicts among board members and the superintendent, as well as board members in the community?
So conflict happens when we're dealing with human beings, right? It seems we're living in a time where conflict very easily gets too fiery, right? So I think it's really important to help everyone in conflict to remain simmering, right? So if it means saying in the middle of a situation, being the person that says, can we just put this on hold for a minute? Can we come back to this in 5 minutes, right? So that we can bring it down. I think that's important. I'm going to go back to a little bit of what I said before, which is about that truth. Truth-telling has to happen, but we can do it with one another in a way that is kind, that's respectful, that honors the fact that we're seeing from two different sides here, but that does not mean that you're a horrible person, right? We're just seeing from two different sides. I think that always has to be the basis of productive conversation, right? That's always the key, is conversation that's productive. Once it reaches that flare stage, it's no longer productive. And that goes for, certainly what I know about Mr. Walmsley is that he is a person that you can sit and talk to, and you can disagree with, and he will try and understand your perspective, and then our obligation, right, is to try and understand his perspective too, right? So keeping that line of communication open is pivotal. But I think it does go to that idea of what are the ways that every one of us can be committed to bringing things to simmering instead of flaring up. Understand that our work is important, and that while we are doing our work, we are teaching children and young people how to deal with conflict. We don't want our students yelling and screaming at each other in the hallways, right? We don't want that kind of a thing going on a regular basis. And so I think we have to keep each other, that in mind, right? In our way of being with one another. So I think it has a lot to do with being honest, being fair, that productive conversation. And I think anyone, if they choose to, anyone can choose to enter into a productive conversation, right?
Yeah.
But I can say to someone, I don't think you're willing to engage in that productive conversation right now, so we'll come back tomorrow, right? Let's come back tomorrow, so 10 minutes from now.
Thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah.
It's similar to what I asked the other one.
Okay.
So when that conflict happens between the board and the community, maybe it's an action the board did that the community
Right.
doesn't agree with, how would you handle that or address that?
I think there has to be a very clear one voice of the board, right? So there has to be a very clear, this is the board's decision, this is the voice of the board, these are the reasons why we made this decision, The minute it turns into individuals making comments about things, it gets very confusing, and it causes many, many, many more problems than need to take place. So that is, there are many instances, it has to be a very clear, this is why we did this, this is what we did, this is why we did this, and it's the one voice of the board.
Thank you.
Are you prepared to run for the upcoming election in November? And if you are running, what will be your key campaign messages to gain the community's support?
I have not yet decided. I know that I have until July 23rd at a certain point in the afternoon, like 4 o'clock, to make my decision. So it hasn't happened yet. If I do enter in, I certainly would be highlighting all the amazing things that have happened. I also would be a person who talked a lot about that idea of students' mental health and well-being. That's just so important. But I also would be a person that would want what I talked about just a little bit ago, the expansion of diversity, some sort of idea of teaching that global community, how can we do that together and promote that. Those would certainly be key points.
How would you approach the budgeting process to ensure that financial resources are allocated effectively, prioritizing initiatives that directly support student learning, well-being, and equitable access to educational opportunities?
So, school districts are in the business of people, and it takes people to do the work with the people. So the budget has to be about people, right? And I just looked at the screen, right, that the majority of the budget is supporting the people who do the work, right? And that makes complete sense. And so that is going to be the priority. The budget is a physical, dollars and cents version of a mission statement. That's what a budget always is, right? So if it's about people, the big chunks of people, right, it's also then about all that it takes to get those younger people to where they need to be, right? So curriculum, crayons, right? Musical instruments, right? Of all those things, that should be the next chunk. And then all those people have to have a place to do what they do, right? So you have to have buses, you have to have a safe place, you have to have a clean place, you have all of that. So infrastructure is a part of what happens. With the idea that those priorities are always circling back to what the mission statement is all about.
How do you intend to advocate for and promote public education within our community? And what specific policies or initiatives would you prioritize to secure the necessary resources and support for our public schools to excel? You kind of already touched on a lot of these things, so I'm sorry it's really kind of a little bit repetitive, but.
That's okay, that's all right. I'm a product of public school, maybe I've already said, generations of my family are, right? So, in this building and in the middle school, we were talking about the middle school a minute ago, I was the first 5th grade class to go all the way through the building, from 5th to 8th grade. But in those buildings was the very first place that I discovered my singing voice. And that it was nurtured, and it was supported, and it was the reason that I went on to get a degree in music, right? How many stories come up and out of public education that are that or even greater stories, right? And so That's the beauty of public education. Family, strangers in a community, your neighbors, all pitch in to help you out, to make your dreams come true. Who wouldn't want to support that? Who wouldn't want to say this is the most important thing a community can do for itself, is to support public education. So whether I have been in it as a teacher, whether I've sat on the board, but I don't see myself not ever being a public education supporter. I mean, I whispered to folks, just as Brian was talking, I wish I could leave work tomorrow and go to Lansing, you know?
Yeah.
That's the kind of passion I have always had about it. I think part of the strategy is if we hear misinformation, we have to correct it. I think part of the strategy is when you hear someone kind of being negative, be curious. Be curious about the negative. Ask questions about the negative. Maybe not try and change their mind, but just ask more questions, go a little deeper, because I think it's a learning opportunity. But I also think it's an opportunity to maybe bring a different perspective when you do respond, right? After you've been curious, and I think that's important, to bring a different perspective. That's one of those in the Kroger store moments, right? It's one of those moments, probably. But I think, you know, we also have to make sure that as we're being proponents of public education, we are being proponents for all children being in public education. All. Right? Once a student has done something that breaches a safety boundary, then we have to make a decision about doing something else, right? But we have to make sure that this is a place for all, right? So, I hope that answers.
Yeah, I think it does. I will, just a quick follow-up though. Have you written to any federal representatives, state representatives, or senators in regards to public education or Richmond Community Schools?
Yeah, many times.
Can you give us some examples about this one?
I have to say I have not done it lately. I've been this lately. I know that there were many people who received letters from me, you know, in those times, a long time ago, but it's the only thing that's coming up in my head right now, when there was no increase in funding, or when they thought that $50 per child was an increase in funding, right? That it was constant. It was constant.
Thank you.
How would you assess the performance of the superintendent and the district as a whole? Like, what specific areas do you believe may need improvement or further support to enhance the overall effectiveness of the district?
You know, I think assessment can be very difficult to do. It's a challenging thing to do. But I also think it's important because I'm about to use a word that I really don't like, but it does hold people accountable, right? And so the thing about assessment, though, is that it has to be going on continually. It is not something that happens one day, right? So from a superintendent assessment perspective to a school district assessment perspective, it is a continual thing, right? So, you know, I would say that, you know, from a superintendent perspective, there's a tool to be used, right? A tool that's used to evaluate the superintendent, just like there would be for a teacher or an administrator. And so the way to evaluate is to make sure that you're comfortable with that tool, that you know the tool, that you understand how it works, that it's something that Mr. Walmsley has agreed to, right, which is a part of the process. But he has to know how that process is going to go, but it's ongoing. And if you see something slipping, you have to be in conversation with him early on, right? Because that again, is a part of a healthy relationship. From a school district perspective, there's lots of different things that are used to assess. Do I think that when you look at state testing, that is one aspect, but it doesn't tell an entire picture, right? So you can use it as part of the assessment of a school district, but please do not use it as the whole. I think you can assess a school district by, can you assess it by how many state titles you have in the athletic realm?
No.
You can, but it's not the whole picture. Are you understanding what I'm saying? So you have to be willing to assess from many, many, many different perspectives to see the entirety of the district. And so like when I said, that goes on and on and on, it sure does. But as a person who was a part of the district in a couple of different capacities, to sit, like I said, at that state of the district, wow, we have come far. And so assessment also needs to have some rejoicing as a part of it. Right? So you have to take every little thing that happens that's a great thing and rejoice about it.
Margaret, you have your last one.
I answered it.
Kinda loud.
I made sure I asked.
Okay.
A school board member plays a crucial role in promoting the district by serving as a bridge between schools and the community. Their advocacy helps garner community support, which is vital for securing funding, improving facilities, and enhancing educational programs. By effectively communicating the district's successes, school board members can attract new students and retain current ones, fostering a positive reputation. Additionally, their promotion efforts can lead to partnerships with local businesses and organizations, enriching students' educational experiences and providing additional resources. Ultimately, a school board member's promotion of the district ensures a thriving educational environment that benefits students, teachers, and the community at large. As a community member, how are you advocating for or promoting our district?
Well, I do have conversations with people. And I have conversations with people who have problems with the district. And I have listened to them with the problems that they have had with this district. And I attempt to try and offer a different perspective. So that's kind of an ongoing thing that I always am doing. Do I see a board member as a bridge between the community and the school district? Sure, because we bring perspectives from up and out of the community, right? Do I think that we need to go searching for those perspectives? I'm not so sure about that. Right? I'm not so sure that it's our job to go searching for those perspectives. If they come to us, then we need to relay them on to Brian, right? Being a promoter of the school district involves, so like I have a personal Facebook page, right? Am I going to go and make a comment about something on League School's Facebook page or a parent Facebook page for League if I was a board member? No, I'm not. But if there's a really awesome thing that Richmond Community Schools has done, I'm going to share that, right? Because that's going to go out into a pool, ripple out in a way that is super positive, right? So understanding the role, understanding, yep, I'm a bridge, but what kind of a bridge, I guess? And then when positive things are happening, like I said, I don't think you rejoice enough, right? So share it as many times as you can. You know, I just think all of that is so very important to do. That's a thorough answer. Right.
Okay, anybody, before we move on to the last one, any follow-up for anybody needed? Okay, so I get to ask the last one, or I'm going to ask you. Do you have any questions for us?
You know, I don't think so at this point. No, 'cause I know we've all been here for a long time, so. It's all good.
That's all right,
It's all
you got
good.
something to
Yeah,
ask.
we're good.
No, really, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. Good. Yes, we're here. We can talk. So let's go. Anybody want to share their thoughts on either candidate?
They were both really good interviews.
Yeah, they were.
I agree on that. I do. I mean, obviously Tracy has a lot of background. She's got a lot of experience. She's sat here. I guess a little concern is I'm not sure that she hasn't made up her mind yet about running again. That was kind of a, for me.
Yeah, you can also look at that as being an honest answer, because someone can tell you they're going to, and then
Well,
they really mean it.
I can tell you this much. I checked again today. There's no one has applied.
Not to check.
I know, but I couldn't help it.
But
She
I-
told me not to check until like July.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not-
Stop looking,
Yeah.
no one, people do it on the very last.
Well, I've heard a lot of
That's
times
the reality.
people have sat here and said, oh, yes, I'm going to do it, and I have not seen a single one on there yet, so.
Correct. And so that's why, you know, sometimes maybe I'm still figuring it out as a good answer, but coming forward to even be part of the interview has to lean towards, I don't know why you would put yourself through that if you weren't contemplating, right? I mean, no offense, but why?
I don't understand why anyone would wait anyway. I was all in at the minute I could. I guess I just,
It's,
I don't.
Anyway,
I guess
okay,
it's-
that's off track. Back on track.
I agree. I think that they were both really good interviews. But I tend to lean towards Tracy just because of the experience of already being at the table. I mean, it's a lot of experience. She's got more experience than I do. But I just think they were both good interviews.
And it's a smooth transition, that's the word. And I also look at, Jill says she's going to run. She would be a good candidate to run when the time comes, and, you know, do a good job. But I look at, just for right now, it would be nice to have somebody to sit down and
Hit the ground running.
just hit the ground running. There's something to be said for that.
Well, and you're correct on that. You did make it a point 2 weeks ago to talk about like somebody specifically having children in the school, and the other person not having children in the school as a plus and a minus. So if you go back to that rationale from 2 weeks ago, Jill does have 3 kids in the school, one in each, well, soon to be one in each building. And she has been very involved in the school, you know, for a long time, the community in general. I mean, I do know that. Just
But
going
my-
off of what we talked about
Sure,
last
but
time.
my point 2 weeks ago had nothing to do with someone having children or not having children. My point very specifically was the individual who removed their child to homeschool and having a child in the district, not having a child. That's not what my
Okay,
point
she has
is.
children in the school
I know,
currently.
but you're,
That's all.
what you said is not what I said.
Okay, so I amended what I just said.
Okay.
You talked about having children currently in the district, and Jill does have kids currently in the school district.
Right.
So I think as a parent in the district, that's
A plus.
a plus for her, yeah.
I agree with you on partly, I guess. And I'm gonna stick up for myself a little bit, because I don't have any children in the district anymore either. But I don't think that means that I'm not, you know, like, I'm very committed to this district because of what they did for my kids and my family. You know, I feel like, so I don't, you know, and I think it's a little different when you pull your kid out of a public school. It kind of shows that you're not a public school supporter. I think this is a little bit different of a situation, I guess. And sometimes I think that it actually is, I don't know, for me, I guess, and maybe not for everybody, but it was a better decision for me to start my journey on the board after my kids were graduated and gone. I didn't have to worry about them getting any, I guess, lashback from any students, teachers, anything like that in regards to my decisions here at the table. That's a plus to it, I think, to not having kids currently in the district, but then I do think that there are definitely plus sides to having kids in the district too. I just think it goes both ways with that, that's all.
I can speak personally that I've never gotten any backlash from any administrators or teachers or anything like that. So I think that speaks a lot to the employees that are here at the district.
Mhm.
I haven't either,
Yeah.
at least my kids.
Yeah.
There's still time.
No, and that's great, I hope that you never do, I'm just saying.
You got 4 more years to go.
I do have to say, I am glad that we put this out a second time and didn't just let it go to the ISD. I would, I mean, obviously we can't do this, but I would literally be okay with putting both names in a hat and just picking one, because I think they're both very qualified and great, amazing candidates each way. I think, kind of like Margaret said, the fact that we're only, at this point, really, it's till November, right? It's a very temporary position, so there's not as much of a learning curve for Tracy to go through, if at all. Oh, I thought she was sitting there, I'm sorry. There's not as much of a learning curve for her to go through as opposed to Jill, but either way, like, I would strongly encourage Jill to go out there in November, but then she would still have to do that learning curve in November, right? So she's gonna have to do it one way or the other, but
Start it now or start it then.
right. One thing that really stood out to me was when Tracy mentioned, in my question, ironically, how am I teaching the students about the global community? When we had those issues a couple of years ago, that took everything in me to just bite my tongue on that, because that's, and I think I mentioned in one of those meetings, we're here to teach the global community, and like, because I've taught in alternative ed and seen that very narrow-minded perspective in the alternative ed, that they think, like, the norm is to, most of them have this perception that the norm is to end up in jail. Like, and that's normal, and that's not something that's normal. Like, let me change your perspective. That's not normal. But that's the community they've grown up in, and that's a community they understand. And if our mission statement is to teach about the global community, why are we being so narrow-minded? And that just, it frustrates the heck out of me, and I totally could understand those parents' perspectives when we were dealing with that. Because it's in our mission statement and we're not doing it. And that frustrates me. There's not much minority exposure within the district. I mean, we have minorities, sure, but I grew up in Utica schools and I felt it was the same way. I felt when I got to college and went to CMU, I was like blown away. Obviously, we didn't have social media back then, but like I didn't understand the global community and what was actually out there. And I remember calling my mom from campus, being like, "Can you imagine these kids are doing this? And there's people that do this." And like, I was floored. And I didn't lead a sheltered life by any means, but it was so narrow and I just wasn't prepared for that. And I think a lot of our students are in that boat, and that was just something that really hit hard. And when Tracy said that, I was like, I'm done. That was enough for
But that
me.
kind of speaks to our community in general and just the environment. And I mean, this is an old farming community and stuff like that. It's not something you're going to change, overnight. And it has changed in the last 20 years or so since I've been out here. I'm sure, since people who can go back further than that has seen a much bigger change. I'm going to look at you, Margaret. Can go back there, but that's not something you're going to change overnight. You talked about, growing up, this is, I guess, getting off topic, growing up in, Utica schools. I'm guessing you were not the minority.
I mean, there wasn't much, to me, in my perspective, there wasn't much diversity, no. It was very similar to, bigger district, but similar to Richmond, I didn't see the diversity.
I grew up on the absolute opposite side of the spectrum as a kid in Detroit, being the absolute one of three,
Sure.
in my whole grade of, 200 and some odd kids. So, you're gonna, whether you grow up inundated at a young age with diversity or not, you are gonna find it. That's why we have like these community programs that are at the Parks and Rec. That's why they have these, different things that go on, and why it's so important to put your kids in all these different sports so that they're not stuck with the same exact group of kids. And that's part of our jobs as parents, is to help introduce them to that different world. And I think that they are doing that with the different stuff that they've introduced here as far as classes. Over the years, it takes a long time to change the classes and stuff, but I think the fact that we've sent kids, abroad and to these different things is introducing them to a whole different diversity world.
I'm not sure what all we as board members can do in regards to that either.
Yeah.
But
But she's just saying that's a
Okay,
long
we're kind of
journey.
off track,
Yeah.
guys. I know we're,
That was her answer to what's a
Yeah,
long
yeah,
term
no,
vision,
I get it,
right. It aligns with our mission. I feel like that was big for me.
I really, I have down several things that I like that both candidates had said,
I
to
was
be
going to
honest with
say
you.
the same thing.
So I don't want to go through them all, I guess, but, there's things that stuck out, I think that both of them, when we asked about like positive or negative things in the district, they both talked about positive things before they talked about the negative things. To me, that's telling. But the one thing that stuck out for me for Tracy is the mental health aspect. I've been a huge advocate of that since day one getting on the board. And she just mentioned that a couple of times, so that hits home to me. So
I like both of them stated, and I'm like with you, Sandy, there were several questions. I was sitting actually side by side looking at them.
yeah.
That they realized that it may not come from us if we're doing initiatives or we're putting something together, we are not the curriculum director, we're not, and willing to listen and bring those things to us as a board and ask questions. They both said that, to make sure that you're asking good questions and finding out. So I feel that's really important because it comes from Brian, and we need to listen to what he's doing, and it's coming from our administrators or it's coming from our curriculum director. They're the experts. you know? And so I like that in both candidates,
I do
that
too.
they said,
Yeah.
you know, that we may not necessarily be the lead in that, but we have people here in this district that have initiatives that we have actually endorsed already.
Right.
Yeah, and they both were very clear about being advocates for, you know, the kids. And
Yes,
Correct.
yes,
I like that too.
no.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they were both good initiatives, that's,
Me too. Okay, we're done.
Does it, anybody? Okay, so I just would, if no other thoughts or questions, anything you want to discuss?
Can I have,
Okay, go ahead.
never mind.
You sure? Okay. Then I am looking for a motion.
I will make a motion to nominate Tracy Bartel not nominate, sorry, to appoint Tracy Bartel to fill the vacant school board position.
Do I have a second?
second that.
Any discussion?
Other than,
I'm sorry.
wait, other than I will agree, I'm really glad we did this a second time too, as opposed to just letting it go. As well.
All those in favor?
Can
Aye.
I ask if there's any
Whoops.
other?
I'm sorry.
No, this
No,
is,
we-
this is
no.
a motion.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so let me go back. Any other discussion? We're good? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed?
No.
Motion carries then. Danielle, you said aye?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 4 ayes and 2. Okay, so Tracy will be our person in.
If she's still here, do you want to swear her in?
Yeah, we can do that.
She's here, she's standing there.
We just said she said yes.
Okay?
Can I?
Jill's
Can I-
mom and I served on the board together.
Oh, my
When I told my
goodness.
story about being locked in the courthouse, her mom and I were locked.
Oh, were they
Did she
together?
just say- Her mom was one of the ones that was locked in the courthouse.
Cindy's our notary, so she'll.
I'll tell
Jill,
you're all
thank you.
set.
Real quick though,
Yes,
thank you
thank
so
you
much
very much.
for applying.
Yes.
And I hope
I
we run
thank
in
you.
November.
I was just going to say, I hope you run in November. Welcome back. We're going to swear you in right now tonight. Yeah, it's a done deal. You better be. You can't change your mind now.
Okay. Now raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
Support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state.
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
And I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
of member of the Board of Education
of a member of the Board of Education
of Richmond Community Schools,
of Richmond Community Schools,
Macomb and St. Clair Counties,
Macomb and St. Clair Counties,
Michigan, according to the best of my ability.
Michigan, according to the best of my ability.
That is the most convoluted oath.
I know, isn't it? Does it make any sense?
You're like trying to pay attention to what he's saying.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I need to refocus.
She technically can
Start
start
tonight.
if she wants to go to closed session.
Oh, okay.
Choose her if she wants.
Okay, I'll ask her as soon as. I'm thinking, do we need to do an orientation or at least a brief? I'll ask her.
Yeah.
There are a few things that may have changed. Tracy? I'm sorry. You are now official. We have one more item on our agenda. It's a closed session. Would you like to participate? Up to
I mean,
you.
it's really okay if you say you want to, right? I mean.
What? I'm
Is
sorry.
it-
You don't have to say yes. I'm just
Understood,
offering you that
understood.
opportunity.
I'm just curious, I know you can't necessarily talk about it, but I'm curious how easy it would be for me to jump in with anything.
Well,
Negotiations.
it's just negotiations.
It's negotiations.
That have been going on.
Ooh,
Yes,
Yes.
they have been going on for a while.
Probably best that I not step.
okay. Thank you. That's all. Just
Okay,
wanted to know.
all right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That is the largest clip we have.
It just slipped right in.
Okay, we're good? Okay. Folks, let's finish this up. Come on, last. I need a motion. I'm looking for a motion to go into closed session. Come on, somebody.
Pursuant to, I am
Thank you.
looking,
Here.
pursuant to Section 8C of the Michigan Open Meetings Act, I move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the purposes of negotiations.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Shh. I'm going to get my gavel out.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're